But I ultimately said, like, what was my purpose and intention of doing this initiative is to help as many people as possible. And I can only help a certain amount of people myself. So, it would be very selfish of me and not aligned with all the things that I was preaching about to not want to share this.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I am your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Giovanni, a founder of Elemental Rhythm, a co-founder of Personal Development School, a seeker, a student, an entrepreneur, a traveler, and all these other identities I could mention here. But let's let Giovanni tell us all about himself, because there is a lot of faces of Gio that we're gonna explore together today.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. All of those things, they're parts of me, I guess, multifaceted in many ways. I think ultimately I'm still like a student at my core and just trying to learn and explore and try to understand how to navigate this thing we call life, which is even in its hardest times, a beautiful gift to be alive and to be experiencing all that life has to offer.
Amazing.
I currently find myself in Costa Rica, as Canada, where I'm born and where I'm from. A lot of changes going on, which I decided would be in my best interest to come to beautiful Costa Rica with the family, the wife and kids, and drag my parents along too. And that's where we met. And it's just been great down here. So I'm really loving it and just really excited to continue my journey down in the jungle.
Oh, that's just so amazing. I already missed the jungle. It's only been a month, not even a month, as I'm out of Costa Rica. But yeah, I already booked tickets to Madeira, to the Portuguese island, because I just cannot stand winter here. I just need to be in a hot place. And I'm just so envious of seeing you with these beautiful palms in the background. But I'm happy for you, man. I'm super happy for you, man. I know that Costa Rica brings out a lot of spirit in people. And I'm super happy for everyone who is there and can experience it. All right, so I am super curious about your development journey and how it all started and where did this idea came from for you to to be a founder of both the school and the elemental breathwork, because it's actually very unique in my view to do this breathwork, like elemental breathwork. I've never experienced anything like that before. I've tried different types of breathing, but how did it all start for you and how did you get to where you're at?
Yeah, good question. It's been a long journey. Like I'm turning 40 this year,
Ooh, beautiful.
and ever since I was a young kid, I was always just like staring in the sky and just like wondering, like probably the questions I was too young to be asking myself, and I would think like, why don't any other kids are thinking about this? But just existential questions like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Like, what is the purpose of all this kind of stuff?
Mhm.
And probably the journey really started as I was in my mid-20s or late 20s. Just got married, had my business, was making some money, was doing all the things, bought a house, having kids, all the things I'm supposed to be doing, like everything I was told, hey, this is what equals happiness, do this and this, and that's what life was all about. And I got to that point in my life, and I just remember, one day just sitting at the side of my bed, and I was looking at my hands, and had this experience where, like, I was kind of like daydreaming, and they just looked like really old. I had a vision of them getting really old, and just what came to mind was that if I just kept doing exactly what I was doing, I would just go through the motions in life and wouldn't do anything meaningful. I just waste my life away. I was doing, I was comfortable, very comfortable, going on vacation and all these things, but like I was not fulfilled. I was not living a life of purpose. I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but that sort of sparked an emptiness in me, or an awareness to an emptiness that I had,
Mm.
where I was keeping myself so occupied on the outside, and I wasn't really focused on what was going on the inside. So very like mind based at the time.
Mhm.
Um, and my mind was my superpower. As a kid, I was a smart kid, and I realized now, you just couple weeks ago, with during a breathwork 5-MeO experience. I had
Ooh.
this crazy deep realization of why I am the way I am, and so any of you people or anyone listening that's on a journey of self-discovery, like, it takes time. Sometimes, you'll learn things about yourself all along the way, but the layers are infinite of what you can find out about yourself and about truth and about the life we live in reality. But basically what I realized was, actually, maybe I'll come back to this later. So anyway, so I had this emptiness, and I felt like I need to figure out why I was feeling this feeling of emptiness. And so it led me on a quest to just understand more. So I started reading different philosophy, different books. Started reading about Eastern philosophy, like Buddhism. Read the Bhagavad Gita. Was reading about Stoicism. Was reading about anything I get my hands on. And in one internet rabbit hole where I was, into Alan Watts, reading in the comments, someone mentions the name Terence McKenna and saying, like, yeah, if you think Alan Watts is interesting, Terence McKenna will blow your mind, something along those lines. And remember that sort of statement just reached out of the screen and, like, grabbed me. And so I started watching a few of his videos. The next night, watching Netflix, I see DMT, the spirit molecule, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is so weird. I just started learning about ayahuasca and now DMT, and I ended up watching that, and I remember viscerally feeling in my body that I needed to understand what these people had experienced. Like, they were sharing their story, and just the look in their eyes, I could tell it was something super profound,
Mm-hmm.
and super deep, that I had no idea what that was like, but I was curious. And so I ended up reaching out to the director at the time, Rick Strassman, and just asked him, hey, is there any more DMT studies I can volunteer for? Like, I want to experience this. And he said no, but you should go check out ayahuasca, because it's the same, molecule as the active component. And I was like, okay, like, where do I go? And so I found a place in Brazil that I went to the first time. I had to do some negotiation with my wife, who thought I was completely nuts. I just started getting a little bit into meditation and changing my diet, and that kind of sort of brought me, I guess, to this point of self-awareness. But this is definitely the next leap that I needed to go on. It was a 2-week vacation by myself, to explore myself. And I went, and it was, way more than I could have ever imagined. My first experience, a death experience where I died completely and came back to life as, the bugs, the maggots that ate me, the grass, the flowers, and just saw the impermanence of life on Earth, but the continuity of consciousness and life beyond that. And it was a beautiful experience, and plus many others where I got to reconnect with my grandfather who had passed away. So, anyways, I could talk for days about some of the experience I've had with plant medicine, but it just really shifted me in a way that I came back and I wanted to share all about it. And I started telling people, and this is back 2013, early 2013, and no one in my community at that time had really heard about ayahuasca. I know a lot of people doing ayahuasca for a long time, but no one where I lived, like north of Toronto, had heard of it. But I feel once you have it in you, you find the others.
Mm-hmm.
And within a few months, I'd found a few circles in the outskirts that were doing ayahuasca. But what it also did was it created this crazy wanting to share the experience, wanting other people to experience it. And it's one of the core things that I had realized just last week that was something of me. But by sharing with people, they looked at me like I was an alien with two heads. Like, you did what? Where? That's crazy. You're insane. You're doing drugs in the jungle,
Yep.
and you hallucinated.
Classic.
And I would have this long I'd have this long conversation with them about all the reasons why it's healing, it's a medicine, it's been used for all the things. I ended up just repeating myself so many times. I made a documentary, and I shared the documentary with people, and I self-funded it. It took me 2 years to make it. I interviewed a lot of people at the time who were like kind of like I looked up to as role models in the space, and just some really crazy stories unfolded,
Can we find it somewhere?
of synchronicity and coincidence. Yeah, it's called Psyched Out. You can find it for free on YouTube. It's on Gaia. It's on Amazon TV.
Amazing. I will check it out for
Um,
sure.
yeah, yeah, and it just happened, and from that, something that I was just called to do, just to share, no expectation. I didn't even have a plan like to make my money back. It was more like, this is just really something I want to do. And like years later, now that there's like a psychedelic industry, people invited me to be on advisory boards and to help consult with them, and so it really came full circle. And I'm a firm believer that when you just give without expectation of receiving, just with the pure intention to give, like, the universe gives it back like tenfold. And so from there, sharing that, continuing my journey, started doing a lot of like fasting. I did like a 55-day fast, a lot of dry fasting where I didn't drink or eat for 4 or 5 days, just really seeking like these deeper experiences and trying to understand like the limits of human potential. And, all the books I was reading before talked a lot about fasting and going to these states. And I had been learning from some native Indian lineages near where I lived. And, they had these vision quests where they wouldn't eat, sleep, drink, or do anything for 3 or 4 days, and after that you bring yourself in this really deep state, using like sweat lodge. And so I was just really exploring, and I had some really beautiful experiences there, deepened my understanding of life and connection. And eventually I wanted to share more and start a podcast, and again volunteering, just because I wanted to be part of something that was trying to like up level like humanity, people who are trying to like raise consciousness, share ideas, connect. And I was seeking more of my tribe because all the people I grew up with were still partying, and I was still half in half out, like drinking alcohol, doing drugs, going out to party, music festival, clubs, whatever. So as I'm exiting that, I'm looking for a new community. I find this website that I end up starting a podcast with, and we had these little groups we have where we get together just to share ideas like meditation, talk about breath work. And I wanted to inspire them, so I'd look for these videos we could share in the gatherings. And one day I come across this guy named Wim Hof, and at the
Mm.
time it's probably like 2015. I remember watching this video. I was like, wow, this is probably one of the most interesting guys I've come across, and who's still alive. um, I'm gonna reach out to him. In my head, I thought as I was watching, I'm gonna meet this guy one day. And so I reached out to him. I invited him to be on my podcast. He said yes. We hit it off. We got along really well, and then we became friends. And then he invited me to go do the training, and I went to go do the training down in Colorado with him. First one in LA, then in Colorado. Spent a week with him. He came to Toronto, spent some time with me. When I was in Colorado, I realized, I wasn't even taking the breathwork that seriously. I was like, it's gonna be real cool to take a picture with Wim at the top of a mountain in the snow with no shirt on.
Yep.
But I didn't know what I was saying yes to, but I was just saying yes to like what's really impacted my life in so many ways. And when I got there and everyone was sharing around the circle, it was about 30 people from all over, North America, a few people from Europe at that time, how much breath work and cold exposure had changed their life. Getting over addiction, healing from pain, emotional, physical, mental, um, it, just like all the craziest things. And I was just there about like, wow, I was just here for the experience. I felt like kind of like an imposter. And then a couple of days later, when we did he took us on this deeper breathwork journey. I had this crazy out of body experience where I totally was like reborn. It felt like, and I came back crying like a baby, in front of 30 other guys, and I didn't even care. It was like this huge release of like holding on to all these things that I wasn't allowed to express as a man in my entire life. And
Wow.
I walked away from that weekend really, really curious about what that experience was. I was like, I didn't take anything. I just breathed. I really dove deep, and I had this crazy experience. I wanted to understand this better, so I just started my own practice. I was learning from other teachers, transformational breathing, holotropic breath work, really trying to see um, what I could find. And I found things that I liked about different practices, but things that I didn't like. And I started just creating my own experience for myself to help me go deeper. So I used the elements, I used the rhythm of the music, which I love music, and I used it to pace the breathing. And I used some guided meditations I learned when I was at the Institute of Heart Math in San Francisco, when I went there for a few days. And then I just really just intuitively, every time I'd do a breath work, it would show me what else I need to add or what else I need to do. Different elements from pranayama, and then I was having this deep experience, and I started sharing it with people, close friends and family. They were having deep experiences, and then we started offering classes, and it just started getting full, and people were coming out every week. There's a waiting list, and when COVID hit, all of the people that worked at our studio, we have a studio in North of Toronto. Um, they were like, okay, now you got to teach us how to do it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can, but I'll try. And there's a moment of the ego checking in. It's like, hey, dude, you created this thing, and now you're just going to give it to all these people, and now it's not going to be yours anymore. They're going to be able to do it. You're not going to be that guy. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But I ultimately said, like, what was my purpose and intention in doing this initiative? Is to help as many people as possible, and I can only help a certain amount of people myself. So, you know, it would be very selfish of me, and not in aligned with all the things that I was preaching about, to not want to share this. And so I meditated on it, and I was just, yeah, this is what I have to do. I need to share it. and we trained the first 6 people, and then it was more fulfilling to hear them how excited they were when they shared the experience and helped one of their people have a breakthrough. It was almost as if I was gaining. So like it was like the win-win-win. So like when I do a session, I win because like I'm part of a deep experience with someone, and then when I share it and they share it, it's they get something out of it. So and then from there, for the last 2.5 years, I've just been teaching people about it, and we've certified, I think, over 70 different instructors from mainly North America, hoping to get some more over the world. One guy moved to Israel, so he's sharing it over there. But it's something that's inexpensive, it's easy, anybody can do it, and it's super powerful, and it's changing lives. So um, yeah, and I've been sharing it down here in Costa Rica. It's such a great way to build community. You just start throwing a few classes. Next thing you know, you have these deep connections with people, and you feel like you're part of a family, a soul tribe, soul fam.
Absolutely.
So that's a great connect. It's a great catalyst to connect with people. Um, and yeah, there's been a lot of other parts along the way that have been amazing challenges for me that have really turned into pivots in my life, like opening the business in Toronto, which was a float studio, which happened like in a weird way at one point as I was getting more into like the breath work and just starting. I was like, I needed a place. And I'd always had these partnerships in the past. And this one, my wife was like, listen, this one you're doing alone. I don't care. I don't want to hear you, having disagreements with your partners. And I'd been in businesses where I just like believed they were going to help me to achieve my dreams. Or what I realized recently was that I was afraid of failure. And so having a partner helped to shield me from failing alone, which goes back to my childhood, which I was mentioning earlier. And and this business starts, and I put all my money in. I sign my house on the line. I get a mortgage on my house, and like basically like tied my hands behind my back and jumped in the ocean. It was like do or die. And at points I was doubting myself. Like I made a big mistake. I'm going to be a failure. What are people going to think about me? What's my wife going to think about me? What's my family going to think? This area is not ready for this kind of stuff. And I realized by being in that state, I was attracting all those kind of people into the business. People who didn't want to pay, people who were scared, people who didn't believe. And I really came like I started like the construction was delayed, over budget. The workers would smoke there. I would start smoking cigarettes. I was drinking wine at night just to like help like numb my mind down and slow it down. I got to this point where like, what am I doing to myself? Though I'm doing the exact opposite of what my intention was. I want to connect with people, help them, heal them, get them into wellness, and I've just run myself as a train off the tracks.
Mm.
And I made this decision one day where I was like, okay, like I just like hit this like bottom point, and I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm okay with losing everything. And when I truly accepted the fact that if I lost everything, it would be okay, and envision myself losing everything and just being okay with it, like it doesn't even matter. What's important is the people in my life, and they're not going to look at me differently because they care. And the people who will judge me and who won't want to be with me because they think I'm a failure, they didn't even care about me in the first place, anyways. And I realized that most of my life I was trying to be someone who I wasn't because I wanted to impress people. I wanted to sell them. I wanted to do business with me. I wanted to like all these things that it wasn't about me. It was about who I was trying to be to impress someone else.
Mm.
And once I made that shift, the whole business changed. Like employees quit that weren't resonating anymore with the new energy, and new ones were coming in. New people were coming, and the business sustained itself from that day on. I didn't have to put another penny in. It never made a ton of money, but it was like this amazing community hub that brought so many amazing relationships into my life and created opportunities for new businesses to grow from there. And I realized if I thought about this place just in strictly business terms, I should have shut it down a long time ago. It wasn't worth it. It was, a lot of work for very low return, but this community space had so much value in it for me and for what I was looking for in my life as I was growing. It was exactly what I needed when I started like waking up to having those deeper questions. I needed that community that I didn't have. And one of the people that I met through there was my partner, Tice Gibson, who is the other co-founder of the Personal Development School. And she, as I was there, I was like, okay, like maybe I should take a coaching course to help people, to can coach people that come here because they need coaching. Like I had a lot of knowledge, but I really didn't have the tools to tie it all together to coach. And I take this coaching course, and I'm learning huge things about coaching and how it totally just shifted my perspective in a way that I didn't need to teach them anything. I needed to ask the right questions and
Mm-hmm.
hold space for them to have their own realizations. And that was a huge one for me. And so I asked Tice to be a guinea pig as I was training. I needed some help. And she's got this business that she's running, and she's doing one-on-one consults with people. She had this crazy story of transformation herself where she overcame, opiate addiction with like oxys from being living in the States, playing soccer, getting hurt. having her own depression and overcoming it, coming back. And, she had a rock bottom point herself where she said, if I ever get out of this, she's living on the beach, showering at the YMCA, working at a bar at night. And she's like, if I ever get myself out of this, I'm going to dedicate my life to helping people. And she did. She came back and she's working 80 hours a week, burning the candle at both ends, undercharging because she feels bad for people, can't say no because she can't set boundaries. And we started having these coaching sessions. And I'm like, listen, you're never going to be able to scale like this. You're never going to be able to reach as many people as you want. And I think you should, either train other people in your methods or do an online school. And she's like, okay, I'd love to, but I know nothing about business. I want you to be my partner. And here I am, just like getting over, like trying to rebuild my business at the studio, which I was like, for so long was like failing. I'm like, I'm not doing any more businesses. My wife's like, you're not doing any more businesses. And there's just something that just really resonated. That I was like, okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. Let's try to do this. She's a good friend. And I'm so glad that I did, because that business just totally from day one skyrocketed. Like, it was exactly what people needed. I had the skills that Thais lacked. She's just an amazing communicator, like huge heart and just super driven. And, like, we launched in 2019, then COVID hit, and, the school just catapulted even further. And now we have a team of like 20 people, and, we're actively building and improving. And it's just been such a blessing. And, you know, um, all the doubts in my life, like I used to have, that when things I didn't think were possible, now well, a couple of years ago, I read the book, The Surrender Experiment. And, everything that happens for a reason. And, when things feel like it's bad or not good, or you can't see the other side, you really just have to step back and just say, okay, like we'll see what happens here.
Hmm.
Like when COVID happened, same thing. Like, we'll see. And all these beautiful things for me happened out of COVID. Like, it forced me to move down to Costa Rica, which was 5 years ago impossible. I had this crazy conversation with a guy at a food show. I used to be in the food business, and the sum of the story was basically, after like seeing this guy there, thinking he was interesting, wanting to meet him and talk to him, like sit down for lunch. He ends up being the guy sitting right beside me. There's a half-eaten plate. He comes to sit down. We have this conversation about him having this realization that his kids are getting ruined in North America by the school system, by the whole rat race, and he wants to move them to somewhere different. Sells all this shit in a weekend, puts his house for sale, sells it, grabs his wife and 5 kids or something like that, and moves to Costa Rica in a little finca in the middle of the jungle with no windows, and just like right in it. And he looks me in the eyes at the end of this conversation, and he's like, "Listen, like, your kids are your responsibility. They have no say in what you're indoctrinating them with right now." And he looked at me in the eyes and said, "It's totally on you to save them." And I felt it so deep in my soul, like it was so true, it was so right, and I had no way to do it. It was impossible. My wife was a teacher. I had a business there, whole family there, kids are there, and I'm like, how is this ever going to work? And here I am, not even 5 years later, and we're living here. I'm just like, what the heck? Like, it happened. It happened. Like, how did it happen? And it's just that letting go and just like having a vision and believing that it's possible and just allowing things to unfold. And um, just to wrap up, like being down here, I've been working on myself, and I realized that, like, I'm always wanting to create experiences for others. I'm always trying so hard to help people and to support people and to have breath work. And, I do psychedelic coaching and sitting at times as well, and men's retreats and workshops. And I'm always trying to work. I can't sit still. I sit down. It's like, what should I be reading a book? Should I be exercising? And, there's a bunch of friends in here from Toronto last week, and they wanted to, they were like, hey, what can we do? What's cool? I'm like, okay, yeah, we're going to go do a mushroom. We're going to take a microdose of mushrooms, and we're going to go out in the jungle. There's some waterfalls I know, and the river. We can jump in, the pools. And the day that it came, just my friend who owns the property and me, we show up, and like no one shows up. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm just sitting there, and like half hour goes by, and like, okay, no one's coming. I invited like, probably like 10, 15 people, like different groups of people too. And that day just don't, said, okay, it just came to me. It's like, you know what? You just need to go there. And we went, we had the most magical day ever. We just sat there in the river and just watched the butterflies and shut off my mind. And it was just like, dude, you need time for yourself. You need to relax more and recharge. You can't always pour out from the cup. You also have to fill the cup as well. And it was so beautiful. And I just asked myself, it's like, why do I have this need that I constantly want? Like, even there I would lose myself. It's like, oh, I can't wait to share this with other people. Like, I can't wait to bring this person here. And I was like, dude, no, you're not getting it. Like relax. Just be there with you right now. Be here now. And so I was just focused on being there and just feeling the river and watching nature. And the next day I was doing some breath work, and I had a little bit of 5-MeOs, microdosing it with a vape pen. Um, and I went into this super deep experience that showed me, first, how grateful I was for my brothers, and then showing me why. It was because I was a kid, I was lonely.
Mm.
I was the oldest child, and from 0 to 5, I had really no companions. Like friends, cousins here and there, but I was lonely. Like I slept in a bed by myself in a dark room, and I went to a few different schools. From preschool to junior kindergarten. Then we moved again, and I was always meeting new friends. And I realized that this drive is because people will recognize you because you were smart, because you have something to offer, because they see value in you. And it put me on this path of, I need to be smart. I need to have value. I need to offer so people will like me. I need to make people like me so I don't feel alone. There's this deep, I am alone core wound.
Mm-hmm.
And it set this sort of pattern for the rest of my life to just work hard, always feel like I never give enough, always wanting to impress people, always wanting to create experiences for people. And in that moment, it was like, dude, you have all the people around you that care about you deeply, that love you, friends, family, students, teachers, and you're not going to be alone. You're never going to be alone. And the more you just be with yourself and realize that, you'll never really be alone. So that fear is a program from childhood that's not true anymore.
Mm.
And it was such a profound experience for me because I used it as like justification, like, oh, it's okay to work all these hours because I'm doing it for good. It's okay. I was distracting myself from not being lonely and and worrying about, subconsciously not being alone. Like, what can I do more? So it came full circle that, after doing all this work on myself, it took me to come to Costa Rica to be by myself and then experience to realize that I'm exactly where I need to be. I don't need to impress or do anything for any other reason than just wanting to do it for out of the goodness of my heart and just allowing the universe to bring the abundance that I need in my life, um, to support myself and my family and to keep me happy. So, um, I just rambled on there for like 25 minutes straight. So I'm sorry, but I feel like we came full circle and I closed it off there about the story, my story,
That's
and how I got to where I am
freaking
today.
amazing, man. I loved your story. I'm all in it with you for the whole time. So I absolutely loved it. And I have so many questions, man, because you completely just blew my mind
Okay.
with the things that you just shared. And I've been having a few of these experiences as well, that you did. So let me rewind. First thing that I wanted to ask you about is fasting, because I have done fasting as well. And I would like to talk about it because there's not many people that have done extreme fasting. I know people who have done a few days or a few days dry fasting or maybe 2 weeks on water, but you said that you did 40 or 50 something days, right?
55
55?
days with just grape juice and lemon, and I'd only drink in a certain window per day. And in between, I'd do like 3 to 5 days of dry fasting. So within that 55 days, so I did up to 5 days with no food, no water, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a profound experience. I have an article that I put out on it, 55 days without fasting. And this is a funny story, but around that time, I was with that website. I was like, like I really want to grow my social media and like all this ego stuff, like how do I get more numbers, more fans, and people to connect with. And I end up writing this article like right at the end of my fast. I didn't even plan on, like, in my mind, I just want to share my experience like authentically. And I share this experience, I put it out there, and it goes like super viral. And like within like 2 days, I have like 5,000 new like Facebook friend requests, and I met people from like all over the world that some of them I still keep in touch with till today. Um, but it was a crazy experience. Like fasting is no joke. It's legit. It can help you physically, mentally, emotionally. Like as I was fasting more, like my mind was getting more clear. I felt like my surroundings need to be more clear. I felt like my intuition was going through the roof. I knew the answer to questions before, like as they were being asked, I already knew. Like I didn't. There was no indecision, no like mulling over stuff. Which I get a lot of analysis paralysis in my life, where I'm like, I don't know, should I do this, should I do that? Like when I was in a deeply fasted state, it was like didn't exist. And I realized like what a deep addiction we have to food,
Mm-hmm.
how emotionally addicting it is, and how, after the first 3 to 4 days, like you feel hunger, like physical hunger. But after like the fourth day, that kind of goes away. It's always kind of there a little bit, but you get used to it and it's not that like difficult anymore. But the mental hunger, well, that lasted like 3 weeks where I was just like thinking about food all the time. You could smell food. What am I going to eat next? Um, what, what is the next thing I'm gonna eat was like in my mind for like a week. I could smell food from like tables away, or you just all your senses are heightened. And then when that went, I was able to just really just let go. I lost like 50 pounds. I was super skinny. My family thought I was gonna die or I was
Oh,
sick, and I was just
same
really pushing the
here.
limits. And eventually I just started eating again because like they were like, hey, you got to stop, like people are worried about you. And I was like, okay. But I felt amazing, like right to the end. My body felt amazing, my mind felt clear, I felt like so good.
So was it a
But yeah, it was an amazing
specific
experience.
process that you followed? Did you follow someone, or did you just know that grapefruit
Yeah, so
juice?
this one was the master fast. Yeah, it was a master fast. Gino was the founder of that, and he sort of does 108 days. Was his initial. They've toned it down now. We can do like 30 or 40, but initially it was a 108-day fast. That's what I was going for. So it was about day 55 when I broke the fast. Um, but since then, I've done a lot of fasting. I do like still dry fasting. I'll do intermittent fasting a lot. Sometimes I eat one meal a day, or different types of fasting that I've found very
That's
profound.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done fasting myself as well. And I found that after the first time when I did it, after third or fourth day, it was one of the most profound experiences of my life, because at that time it was just at the beginning of my self-development journey. I had my first psychedelic trip maybe half a year earlier than that, or something like that, maybe a little more. And it was like the first time where I experienced my spirit in my body without any substance, and I was just there, present here and now, after 3 or 4 days of dry fast. And I felt this energy when I was meditating on the third or fourth day in the morning, that my crown chakra completely opened, and this energy was coming in my body and down throughout my spine and my whole body. And I was like, wow, this is the moment where I felt like I don't have to eat material food, because this energy is coming to me straight from God, straight from the universe, and I can just inhale it and charge myself up like that. So I don't actually need material food to exist. I can just live on this energy. And in all these religions, different people were fasting, but I don't feel like this topic is highlighted enough, or enough as it deserves, because for me it was one of the most profound spiritual practices that I've done. And to me it was the first time I did, I think, 4 days dry, and then the rest of the 3 weeks on water.
Wow, 4 days dry, your first time. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I was
intense.
really, but I was reading a lot about it. I was watching a lot about it. I read all these books and people talking about breatharianism and in India and stuff like that. So I knew, and also I have the friend who did the process, 3 weeks process, just before me, like a month or two before, and I was like, okay, he's fine, so I can do it as well then. And so it was actually, I'm a very extreme person. For me, it's either all or nothing. So for me, we were just kind of driving with a friend, and he was like, hey, how about we stop eating from tomorrow on? I'm like, yeah, okay. He's like, yeah, you can live with me, let's do the process. I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I went, I ate my last chocolate, I ate normal dinner and whatever, and the next day we just stopped eating and drinking. And that was my story. I'm quite extreme in these things. And it was hard for the
Wow,
first 2 or 3 days, because of course
impressive.
my body had to just align with my new way of being. But then when I felt this energy coming into me, and that's also what people say about Reiki. The guy Usui who created Reiki, he also was fasting and he got the access to this energy. And I was like, wow, I actually got the access to it too when I was dry fasting. And so I did the 3 weeks, and afterwards I was for half a year, I was on liquids. So I drank juices, cacao, tea, but I didn't have like a solid food for half a year. And for me, it was one of the
Wow.
best things that I've done for myself in my entire life, because I could feel this energy physically and it was still there, and it never went away. Since then, I just feel the energy physically in my body, and I feel my chakras, and I feel a lot just physically. And for me, this half a year, of course, as you said, in my case it was the same. I came back home, my mom was completely just having a mental breakdown, because she thought that I'm just out of my mind. So my mom and grandma, they said only afterwards, they told me that they've been crying for like a month after I came back after 3 weeks, super skinny and whatever. But I felt great, and of course they dragged me to do the blood test and everything, and all my tests were amazing. They were better than their tests.
Me too. Yeah, same.
And it was just so funny, because I was going for Zumba with my mom, and I had so much energy, and I didn't eat, I was just drinking. And my mom was like, what the hell is going on? Why is she, jumping when everyone is tired? And she's just so full of energy. So it was a pretty interesting experience that, the fasting brought. And it was also rewiring the minds of all the people around me, because my friends already wanted to call the police or the hospital to check on me when they saw me after 2 weeks of fasting. They were like, oh my god. They were super worried. But then, when I did the process, the 3-week process, the second time, I was like, Mom, I'm doing fasting 3 weeks. Yeah, okay, enjoy. Just like, go have fun with your fasting. The second time, it was not a shock anymore. So it was quite a mild experience. But it's actually, I feel like the most challenging part, if someone really wants to become a breatharian, is to actually align with all your friends and all your family, so that you don't get back to all these programs like, oh, you have to eat, oh, in order to be in social situations you have to have dinner with your friends, right? And it's not true, because I was just drinking a tea or a juice, and I'm still hanging out, and I felt amazing. And for me it was such a profound thing that I'm just so excited when I can talk to other people who experience this thing, because not many people have done such a long process of fasting. But I honestly think that it's so underrated, because we can get profound spiritual
It's
experiences.
just it's just hard. I think people don't have the willpower to make it. Like it's easy. It's very easy just to eat something. Only certain type of people can have the willpower. Like I agree. Like I think everyone should at least once in their life try it. But that temptation of going for that snack, for that food to break it is like super strong. Like a lot of people can do it. So
Yeah, I feel yeah.
but those who do, I have mad respect for it, because I know exactly. And I'm also like very strong mind. Like once I get to a certain day, it's like, okay, I did all this work. I'm not going back now. I'm gonna go push all the way through. So that's amazing. I'm super impressed. That's really really impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you. But yeah, for me, it was quite easy, because after some time, your body gets so used to just not getting food that even people were eating pizza next to me, or I was smelling all these things, and I was just, okay, let me smell. And I was smelling, I was like, oh, perfect smell, amazing, I'm gonna be good with my juice. And there were, of course, times that I was
Yeah.
missing some taste. So for example, what I did is quite funny. When I took the spice, which is like a ready spice, where you have Tuscan herbs or something like that, where you have oregano and some dried tomatoes and whatever, and I would take a sieve and put the spice there and just boil the water and put it over, so that it's kind of like a taste of garlic and tomato and whatever, but so still not having the solid taste of it. And people were laughing at me like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you not just eating a soup? Or I was like, no, I don't want solid. I want my body to have this kind of energy reserved that I would otherwise use for digestion, because that's what it is. I feel that you don't use all this life force for digestion, and then you accumulate it within, and
Yeah.
then you have
Yeah.
so much
I
energy.
read. I read. Yeah. Who resonated the most with me was, I think, Arnold Ehret, Rational Fasting, and he talks about like food just takes your energy and it blocks the energy that runs through you, and like basically the breathing is where the energy comes from, the gas exchange. And it makes a lot of sense to me, but it's like we've been sort of trained to think that's the other way around, because it uses to, like, the food will numb us and make us sort of like attached to it in a way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I really believe, like, um, without getting too deep into it, that almost everything in this world is not as it seems. I think we've been lied to about a lot of things, about food systems, about our history, about energy, about religion. Um, and so I believe one day we'll know the truth, but I think a lot of things are done to manipulate us, to keep us down, to hold us back. And I feel like we're at a sort of tipping point in humanity's history where we're about to sort of like break free from
Yep,
that. So
exactly.
keep my
we're
fingers
we are
crossed.
coming into the new earth. We are creating it right now as we speak. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. And it's interesting what you said, that yeah, we've been lied to about many different things. And what I found in one of the videos that I watched about breatharianism and in India, is that some people said, and I'm not saying it's true or not, but it's just a perspective to consider, that in the past, we used all the senses in the same way. Like, for example, we see the color, it gives us energy. We hear the music, it gives us energy in this way. We eat something, the taste gives us some kind of energy, right? Because we can work with different energies, different music, different colors that will, for example, awaken different chakras. And so food and eating was just another way of perceiving the world, and it was not meant to even be so let's say, abused, because we in the past we didn't even have such a long intestine. We didn't even have, it was just simple in the past. That's what the lady was sharing in the video, that it was just, like a pipe for the food to go through. But in the past, we would just eat a berry from the bush or an apple from the tree, not a massive meal of spaghetti and, and meat and tomatoes and something on top, and then the dessert, and then Coke, and then, all these things in our system that now we are just developed in a different way, and we are in a way abusing the taste, which is exactly as everything else, the smell, the sight, and so on.
Yeah, like the first thing I ate after my fast was a papaya,
Oh my
and I tell
god.
you, like I was like the papaya was like 3 dimensional, 5 dimensional. I could taste it, smell it, feel it. Like the energy of it was so intense. I was like, wow, it was like almost like an orgasm in my mouth. I
I
was like, oh
know.
my god, like this is the way you're supposed to probably experience food,
I
right?
know, man. I had my bufo experience this year, and the first thing after bufo I ate was papaya, and I was like, "Oh my freaking god! This is like the best food I've ever had. Like, it was just so good to, yeah,
It's
to come
incredible.
from like being everything, being this infinite space of shapes and colors and having no human experience and being lost in the complete infinite space, and then coming back being a human and being able to eat papaya. I was just like, oh my god, this is just the best experience ever. So I'm with you. I'm the biggest papaya lover. I When I'm in Costa Rica, I eat papaya for breakfast every day, and I really recommend to everyone who thinks that papaya tastes like soap, because I used to think so, go to Costa Rica and try their papaya, because you don't know papaya,
No, it's because they've never eaten a properly ripened papaya.
right?
That's why. It's just super sweet
I
and yeah,
know, I know. I'm such an
agreed.
advocate for papayas, so you don't need to tell me about them. But awesome, awesome. I'm so glad we are talking about this, because I feel like one of the steps of the evolution of humanity is to actually realize that we can eat more consciously, and we can bring consciousness to everything, and food and eating can be such a beautiful ceremonial thing that we can really focus on and be present with it, rather than just quickly go and reach for some fast food or whatever because we are in a hurry to do something else. It should be treated with reverence. And I know this guy Jason. He's my San Pedro shaman, although he doesn't call himself a shaman, but I do. And he literally talks about food as it's like a fractal of God. And when he talks about food, I feel like he brings
Hmm.
so much reverence to it. And he was talking about how Mother Earth was forming all these things, all this nutrition, like all these things full of nutrition for us humans to now consume, and we should have so much reverence for it, because it took so long to form this papaya in the earth. But people just forget about it, and they don't treat the food consciously. And so I'm so glad we are talking about this, because I feel like people should pay more and more attention to what they are eating, to how they are treating it, when they eat it, and what is there in the
Absolutely.
food as well, because it's just so important what we feed ourselves with. So yeah, amazing. I had another question pop up in my mind when you were talking. Yeah, I think Wim Hof is like something that I would like to really talk about, the topic of breathing with Wim Hof. And so, what did you experience? You said that you had out of body experience on the retreat with Wim Hof, right? And so, how, like, because I don't fully understand how the breath works on your body, and you probably have way more wisdom about it than me, in a way that it can bring you to these states of mind where you can even go out of your body. How does it happen?
Yeah, I think scientifically what's happening is as you're breathing deeply, you're exhaling CO2. And so the way it works is when you exhale CO2, CO2 is really important because it delivers oxygen to the cells. So you may have a lot of oxygen in your bloodstream from breathing, huffing and puffing, but as you're exhaling carbon dioxide, you're reducing your CO2 level. And so what happens is the red blood cells hold on to the oxygen molecules in your bloodstream and it doesn't deliver them. And it's kind of like reduces the oxygen in your brain. And the body sort of thinks it's dying a little bit. And so what happens? It brings you this euphoric state. You have, your life flashes before your eyes. You have, like, childhood memories can come up, or what I think is also happening is like a release of DMT, and then through that, you kind of have these like spaced out experiences. Sometimes you kind of like could like not really pass out, but just go into this really like state of altered state of consciousness through the breathing. Um, and then from there, like anything could happen, right? Like when you have a DMT experience, you're almost like going to the spirit world. Your life is a little bit different. You know, the lens changes. You know, it's a new the kaleidoscope, and things can come up, emotions can come up. You can release things that are stored in your body. It's almost like you're getting high for your own supply, your own psychedelic sort of experience. Um, and Wim really pushed us there. You know, the regular Wim Hof breathing, you're doing holds, a few rounds, but this one experience he took us through was just different speeds, experiment with your breath, breathing, holding, and just keep pushing. And eventually, you know, it brought me to that place where, you know, I had that experience. And from there, you know, the rest is history.
Wow, that's so amazing. I love this explanation because it makes me understand it on an even deeper level. And do you find that people who practice it more, it gets easier and easier to, for example, hold the breath for longer? Because for me, it was very challenging
Yeah,
when I was doing
the
it
body
for the first
adapts.
time to hold for so long. But then, for example, if we did it Wim Hof breathing where you hold for 30 seconds, 1 minute, and then 1.5 minutes, I could easily do 1.5 minutes after I did it gradually. Whereas if I did it 1.5 minute of holding straight away, I just simply couldn't do it. So do you feel like it's kind of like building a muscle?
Yeah, so there's two things there, but for sure the body adapts. Like it adapts to cold. If you do ice baths, like it adapts to heat. If you do saunas, the body will adapt to almost anything. We're anti-fragile human beings, so like whatever doesn't kill us usually makes us stronger because the body adapts. With the breath work, there's two things that happen. So one is that adaptation as you start holding your breath more, the chemoreceptors change, where you'll be more resilient to carbon dioxide. The trigger to breathe is not lack of oxygen; it's the increase in CO2 levels. That's what makes you feel the way you feel when you feel out of breath. On the opposite end of that is what was I going to say? So the chemoreceptors, yeah, and when you're expelling CO2 for that same reason, you're wherever the level is that triggers you. When you're doing Wim Hof method and you're breathing a lot, you're expelling CO2, so your CO2 level drops and it gives you more time to hold your breath before you feel that urge. Those are the two ways that, you know, with one is kind of like manipulating by just breathing a lot first, expelling all that CO2. The other way is from adaptation by really feeling comfortable and allowing yourself to sit in that feeling where you need to take a breath when you have that air hunger. And that will build up your CO2 tolerance.
Hmm. And so, do you think that everyone is capable of having this profound, even out of body experiences, or is it like everybody is different and not everyone can
Yeah, I think
reach
everyone's
the
capable.
level to do this?
No, I think anybody could. Yeah, I think anybody could. You just have to put the practice in, really be committed, really want to go for it. Like if you don't have that intention and commitment to do it, then no. But anyone is capable if they have that.
Hmm. And so, when you were training with Wim Hof, what was your most profound experience? Was it this out of body experience that you were talking about, or were there any more?
On a personal level, yeah, on a personal level, yes. For me, yeah, but just two things stood out. One was like the group, the energy of the group going into like frozen lakes together. And the leadership of Wim was, you know, he would always encourage people and let them know that they were powerful and they could do anything. They could blow their own minds by how much they could actually do. And he actually believed in them. And he wasn't about like, hey, look at what I can do. He did that like with all challenges, but he would do that and also tell people like, hey, you can do this too. Here's how you do it. Believe in yourself, push yourself, go for it. And that's what I love about him as a teacher. And I try to sort of, you know, replicate that when I'm working with students and teaching people. Like, let them know, like, hey, you're powerful. You can do this.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely felt it on the
Yeah,
breathwork with you. I felt super encouraged and super held in even when I couldn't do it anymore. I heard your voice like, "Yeah, you can do it. Go for it." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I can. I'm gonna keep the breath and go deeper." So thank you for that. It was a beautiful experience to have a breathwork with you, and it's amazing what our body can do. It's sometimes even beyond our wildest imagination how powerful we are and how strong we are. And if we can just all believe it, especially in group settings, I feel like it's a very powerful energy to do this, because
definitely
if you can
amplifies.
feel someone else not breathing, or experience them going into this cold bath, you're like, okay, they can do it, so I can do it as well, and you're very encouraged. So, and that's great. And so that's why you're doing the breathwork workshop soon, right? Is it also in like a group settings with all the people breathing together?
Yeah, Yeah, we do it in person, and we're doing it online as well. So for people who can make it in person, we're doing it online as well. And that's coming up at the end of the month, the 29th and 30th. And if anyone wants to like learn more about me, they can check out our website, elementalrhythm.com. It's a free trial if people want to check it out, breathwork. And then I have my own website, giovannibartolomeo.com as well. If you want to like connect with me or have questions or anything like that.
Perfect. Amazing. I will definitely check it out. And thank you for sharing that. And I want to ask you, we have a little bit of time left, and I'm mega curious because you said that you've done a lot of plant medicine, and I'm a big believer in plant medicine as well. So if you are happy to share your one or two most profound, deepest experiences you've had on plant medicine, I would be honored to hear about it.
Yeah, they've all been different in their own way. And, you know, like the recent one for sure that I shared was super profound, and it was only a microdose. And before, I was under the impression that um, you have to like blow your mind to get the deep experiences, like really just push through to the other side, drink as much as ayahuasca as possible, have a massive dose of 5-MeO or 10 tabs of Cambo. Um, but there's also beauty in the microdose and just listening and being with yourself and just really trying to explore what's there, because sometimes the deep experiences it's working on you at a different level, but you come back and it's like hard to piece it together. um, so that one for sure is just like really taking a little bit and allowing myself to relax into the experience and see what comes up. And the other end, I had a crazy experience of a past life where I was with the same family, and we were like in like a flood, and we all perished and passed away. And it explained a lot of behaviors that I have and like my kids and my wife sort of portray. But it was beautiful because I came back to see like, look, we're here again. Like it's okay. Like this will happen. You go throughout time and live all these different lives with similar people. And it just showed me how like sometimes you're the mom, sometimes you're the kid, the husband, the grandmother. Like there's different people, that souls that are on this journey together. And it kind of said like, yeah, when you're ready, you'll go to something else. And that's what I left out with. And it was deep and profound, and it just helped like not make me fear death and actually be curious about death, and like look at it as a ceremony as well. And when it's time to come, to just embrace it and to you know take that leap like you would in any kind of ceremony.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't done ayahuasca yet. I still feel like the medicine hasn't called me yet, but also because I've done so much shadow work without any medicine the last 2 years, that I feel like, okay, Mama Aya will probably bring me to my darkest shit, and I've gone through the darkness a lot, so I'm gonna wait a bit and chill before I go even deeper. But I am personally feeling a little bit I don't know, nervous about ayahuasca
That's
itself.
good. It's a good
Is
sign. Yeah,
it?
you should be
Yeah.
nervous. Nervous is shine. Yeah, the ego's afraid of uncertainty, so a little bit of being nervous is a good thing.
Okay.
I mean, you should be feeling. If you're not feeling nervous, then I would say there's probably something not right there either.
Mm.
A little bit nervous, and you got to like dive into it. The biggest thing with ayahuasca or any plant medicine, when you take the cup, when you eat the mushroom, when you smoke the pen, you have to go in with conviction. Like you're ready. Like hey, I'm doing this. I'm going for it. I'm not gonna hesitate. I'm not gonna think about it. It's like okay, I'm choosing to do this. I want to do it because I'm ready to see what's there and really dive into it. And when it comes up on the experience, you can try to run away, but it'll be very challenging and painful, or you can dive head first right into it and like, okay, let me see what's there. And usually beyond that is not what you thought it was. Usually an amazing gift, insight, lesson,
Mm.
experience.
Yeah, it's always like
Yeah.
that with shadow work, right? When you go as deep as you possibly can into your feeling, into this fear or into this whatever else it is that is coming up for you, on the other side of it, you're like, oh, it actually wasn't that bad. I am actually still alive. I'm actually now more empowered. And that was my experience on Bufo when I did it, because for me, it was all about releasing fear of death. And I was there. I didn't have a human body. I didn't have a human life. And I was just experiencing a lot of anxiety, and not my mind was still there, so it was not really clear about like what's going on. I was so confused, I was so scared. But then I came back and I cried all this fear out, and I'm like, okay, now if I experience it again, I'm not going to be as scared because I've gone through it, and now I'm on the other side of it, and it wasn't actually as bad as it seemed to my ego, right? Because it was just my perspective, and someone else could see what I saw, experience what I've experienced, and be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, all these patterns and colors, and I'm infinity. Awesome, yeah. And for me, it was like, oh my freaking god, what is going on? Why am I here? Is this my life right now? And all these questions in my mind, like, what the hell? But then it actually empowered me even more, and now I feel like I'm one step closer to the courage of stepping into this kind of crazy experiences more. So I know that sometimes we just need to deal with it, right? We just need to, as you said, jump
Right.
straight in and allow the medicine
Yeah.
to show us.
Well, you'll know when you're ready. You know when the calling is there, and when it's the right time. It'll present itself. So yeah, that's exactly it.
So we have a few minutes left. So I wanted to ask, how many dots of combo did you do? That was your maximum dose.
Well, I did. I've only done Cambo once in my life. I did the first 5 dots and nothing happened, so I had to do another 5 dots, and that's when it all came through.
You did
So
10 dots at the
it was an
first
intense
time.
experience. Yeah, yeah, it was a very intense experience, but like I was really like the first time was kind of there. I was like, okay, I'm not really feeling too much, and then the next 5 dots like just really came through. Yeah, really felt it.
And did
So
you feel it more physically
yeah,
or emotionally, or what was your experience?
mainly physical. Some emotions came up. It was a very interesting experience for me, but overall, I just felt really clear after. Like I was a little bit sick at the time, and that was totally gone after the Campbell experience. And I just felt really clear and just ready to sort of tackle whatever I had to in life.
Oh, that's amazing. I remember my first Cambo experience as well. I felt so clean in my body. And actually, in the evening after the experience, I felt like my spirit guides are around me and they are holding me. And I was so happy and so loving and so just uplifted. But then I got a little surprised in Costa Rica because I did Cambo the first time in Australia, and they use this small incense to do your dots. But in Costa Rica, I'm like, yeah, all right, I did
Hmm.
6 dots, so you can give me 5 as the first time. And they use this big incense, okay? It's like at least 3 times thicker than the normal one. And they did 5 dots, but I was like, this is 1 dot. This is like 3 of what I did before. And I was completely smashed. I was releasing some ancestral trauma. I even passed out for a moment, but it was so profound and so clearing that I
Wow.
still would recommend it to anyone, even though it was challenging. But it's a great experience because you're just feeling sick for 20 minutes, and after 20, 30 minutes you're kind of back, and after an hour you're completely back to
Brand new
normal.
person.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so profound and so deep, but yeah, for me it was quite surprising when I got all these massive dots. So I can imagine what it was for you as well to get 10 dots at the first time.
Yeah, it's
That's pretty
same,
funny.
exact same.
Um, Alrighty, so I would love to chat a little bit more about the business and the consciousness in business, because from what I experience with you, and what I observe, you do business in a very spiritual way. From my perspective, you don't seem like a person who is like pushing very hard, and it's more like aligned with you and with what you're doing. And you seem, when you talk about it, you're like, yeah, I'm on my mission, it's my calling. And it doesn't seem like you're working like in with a push in a way. It seems more as you're in the flow of the universe. Would that be something like that you would like to share? Like, how do people reach this state?
Yeah, it's been a process. It's been a process. It's just that process of letting go and just knowing like what you're supposed to be doing is going to be easy and have flow, and the things that are you're not supposed to be doing is going to be a lot of resistance. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges, but the challenge you're going to know when you just really tap into when you tap into that. So I went to business school. I know all about that, about trying to win, about being competitive. But now I'm just trying to only align with projects that I care about. I walked away from investments in business that like I lost a lot of money, but I knew at the time, like energetically, I had to. And that's when the other things shifted in my life. When I walked away from things that no longer served, the things where I just thought I would do it to make money, I wasn't aligned with. So it's just following your heart, following your intuition, and letting it become easy. Allow things to come to you, being open to receive, just being open to bring abundance in your life. And ultimately, the secret is really just giving more. The more you give, the more you receive. It's a really good book called The Go Giver. And the more you give, the more you receive.
Mm.
And for me, that's been the motto that I've been going by, and it seems to be working great.
That's amazing. And so, just one last quick question. How do you differentiate between if it's your calling and, because, for example, now I gave myself a challenge to post a YouTube video per day. And sometimes it's not easy for me to do this, to do it every single day. But I know that inside I feel called to it. But how do people differentiate between if I have resistance to doing it, if it's something that I should just push myself a little bit and do it anyway, or if it feels not very aligned with me in the moment, should I just quit it? How do you differentiate between, what is your true calling and what is the resistance just in the moment?
Well, do the things give you energy? Do you feel inspired? Does it light your heart on fire? Then you do it. And if you need to slow down and rest, you need to honor that as well. But you have to know yourself and set your intentions and see if it's aligned. Because it's one thing to give up and be lazy and not want to do anything and use an excuse to say, "Oh, I just don't feel aligned with it today." But really, just get clear on like how you want to feel, how you want to show up, what your purpose and mission is, and or at least that you want to sort of find that out and explore to find that.
Mm.
And it's an intuitive thing. It's a different muscle than from the mind. I came from being very smart and just using my brain for everything, and have been traveling down to my heart to try to find that balance, not to not use my mind and brain, but to be in between the two to navigate. And yeah, it's a practice. So people just gotta get clear on how they want to show up, and just be aware of when challenges come or when things come up. It's like, why are they feeling the way they feel? Is it resistance, or is it just not a good day or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally resonate with what you just shared, because sometimes I feel like we can have this bigger vision and bigger calling, but obviously it doesn't mean that there will be no challenges at all. But then when we have this vision and when we know why we're doing what we're doing, because we hold this big vision inside, even these challenges don't seem like such a big deal, because the universe supports you if you're open, if you're excited to do what you do, if you're loving what you're doing. So yeah, I totally resonate with that. So thank you for sharing. I love your perspectives and I loved everything that you shared today with me. um, I'm super grateful that you agreed to chat to me on this podcast, because yeah, you just blew my mind with your stories, and I would love to at some point chat to you again and know more, because you just sparked my
For sure. Yeah,
curiosity.
we'll do it.
Uh,
Yeah, sounds good.
Amazing.
Okay,
So
let's
thanks
set it up.
again,
Anytime.
Giovanni, for being here
Thank you
with
so
us.
much, Karolina.
Sending you so much love and
And
namaste.
hope to see you soon again in Costa Rica. Yeah,
Yes,
same.
I will
Thank
come.
you. Thank you.
See you. Thank you so much, beautiful people, for being here with us today. I absolutely loved chatting to Giovanni, and I hope that you loved it too. I hope that you're going to stay with us and stay tuned to the next podcast. And I'm sending you so much love, positivity, freedom, and happiness.